Hi, I'm Anna Faris, and I want to give you some advice. Relationship advice. Okay, so I am totally unqualified to do so, but that's never stopped me before. So let me share with you some of my most awkward, embarrassing, rewarding, and teachable moments in my new book, Unqualified. So go on, read, have fun. Take some unqualified advice from me.
Thanks for having me.
No one's actually ever done that. That's my favorite thing.
Blurted, interrupted. Yeah, I'm sorry.
They're just not allowed an
such a
introduction for
jerk.
themselves.
Fucking jerk. I'm sorry.
I loved it. Thank you so much for being here. I love your book. I love your podcast. They're really fun to listen to, and they're actually really sensitive and emotional at times, but mostly they're very fun and funny.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks. It started, it was like, I was a fan of podcasts in general, and I thought, well, why the hell not? I'm going to order some microphones off of Amazon.
Did you get good ones at first? Did you know to get good ones? Or did you get the,
no, fuck no. I got some microphones, and I thought, I want to ask strangers about their relationships and attempt to talk to them about them. And so it kind of started from there. And then my amazing producer and dear friend, Sim Sarna, he came over one day and he was like, "You need help." And I was like, "I know." Anyway, so then the podcast started. We started that about 1.5 years ago, and out of my house.
And you still do it out of your house, right?
Yeah. Now, sometimes from my dressing room, which is also exciting. Yes.
That's really great. I'm curious, who was your first sort of big guest? Obviously, you have friends, you live in LA, but who was the first guest that you had over and you're like, okay, we need to make this needs to feel professional for them? Never?
I don't think it's ever felt professional, which is always embarrassing for me. But we've had some amazing people. I think, and it's always, you know what's been a surprising, I guess, element of the podcast is that when celebrities that I'm interviewing give strangers advice, you end up learning more about them than you would in a traditional interview about the celebrity themselves, because people are a little unguarded. I feel really unguarded right now. I feel like, can you guys see? Can you see how I'm like, what's happening? Am I wearing underwear?
I think you're good. I'll keep track. I'll make sure everything's going
thank
okay.
You.
Yeah.
No,
but not in a lascivious
guys.
way. Not in a lascivious way. Just in taking care of the situation.
Now that part disappoints me. Please.
You'd prefer it to be lascivious.
I need a little lust in my life.
Imagine if you have.
Oh my God, that'd be amazing. Be like, well, who cares what the fuck I say?
You get to leave with a good story. Good interview, but kind of perverted. Weird. So who was I guess, rephrase the question, who was the first guest that made you a little nervous?
I think, everyone has made me, maybe Courtney Love. Chris Evans. Well, but Chris and I have been friends for a little bit, but sometimes the closer I am, like with Allison Janney, sometimes the closer I am with somebody, it makes me, like with the book, I'm terrified about my parents reading it. And
or when you're close with someone, I would imagine that you know things that maybe they don't want on the podcast, and you hope that they don't slip out in conversation in some way.
Completely. And I think, do you feel this way? Like, do you get more nervous about people that you love and know being a little more judgmental towards your work?
I get nervous about people that I've been a fan of since I was a kid or something, and not because it's you ruin your heroes, but because I worry I'll get on stage and I'll just talk about them and not ask any questions. I'll just talk about them to them, and they'll go, "Yeah, I did that. Yeah, I did make that movie. You're right. Yeah."
Yes. Yeah. I know it started I don't know. My mom was when I got cast in Scary Movie, which was my first big job. That's when you guys are supposed to go woo. Sorry, I will. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm such a jerk. I'm sorry, you guys. I fucking annoy myself. I'm gonna be like running that clip in my head tonight at like 11 p.m. That's when.
What are you going to be asking yourself when you're?
I'm gonna be like, why the fuck
movie.
did I say like whoop for fucking scary movie?
I'm glad
I'm glad
it's not going to be you being like, why didn't they woo for scary movie? Is it over? Are they not excited about it?
No, but my mom, I was just so terrified for her to watch the movie. I had her go to the bathroom like during key moments, when I get sprayed to the ceiling with sperm. I was like, Mom, please go to the bathroom. I think I guess it's the idea, and the book makes me feel this more acutely, I think, than ever. The idea that the people that I love, I feel so vulnerable, which is why I keep looking down at the floor. Because I feel so vulnerable with the book. Normally, I can hide behind characters.
Right, you say that early on in the book that you've hidden behind characters.
Did read it. I did. Yeah. Thanks. Did you like? You really did like?
Yeah, I thought it was great. No, I thought.
Tell me your favorite part.
I liked it a lot. I loved it. I love the advice that you give. One of my favorite parts is the story that you tell about a monologue that you read prior to like your brother's wedding or like at your brother's wedding. Yeah. And it's like, that's something that I can't stop thinking about while you're talking about being vulnerable and being embarrassed, because they don't even talk about that with you anymore. And now you're in an interview in front of an audience and I'm talking about it with you.
Yes. No, I think, I don't know. Did you ever do anything like that? Like give an embarrassing wedding toast or... Oh, come on, then you tell me about it.
You want to turn the tables, don't you?
I sure do.
You want to turn the...
I have a podcast. Come on, give it to me.
It's hard for me to think of anything specific, but I do know that I walk around daily or, every other day with a running sort of tally of things that I just go, oh, I can't believe I did that, or I can't believe I said that,
But everyone must, right? Like we all, that's a common experience, right? Like... Thanks, guys. Woo.
A really dumb one that
I love each and every one of you.
A really dumb one that comes to mind is from when I was little, so I should be over it, but I think it's a small childhood trauma, which I was being made fun of by these two girls in my neighborhood that were older than me when I was a little kid, and they were making fun of me. And my mom had told me earlier in that day that said, if anyone makes fun of you, you turn to them and you say, I know when I'm not wanted, and you walk away. So I turned to these two girls and I said, well, I know when I'm not wanted. And they went... and made fun of me mercilessly even more. And so that runs around in my head right now.
Where are those girls?
I don't know why.
I'm gonna kick...
Doing nothing.
Yeah, that's right.
I fucking won. No,
that's right.
I'm sure they have great lives and families and still live with their parents, but it's great.
I know when I'm not wanted.
So bad.
But here's the problem is that I have no idea when I'm not wanted.
No, neither do I. I only know when I don't want myself. It's fairly often, and I'm out of there. I'm out of there very quickly. So you write this book, you have this podcast where you essentially are oversharing a fair amount of the time, right?
Yeah.
But you're clearly slightly uncomfortable with oversharing. So is it kind of like a compulsive thing for you that you feel sort of two ways about?
I think that, I was a pretty lonely kid. And I think that, I've used acting and getting to play characters that are different from myself as an escape. And so I think as I get older, the idea of, I guess, the understanding that we all are these things, that we all are sort of lonely or like, essentially kids at one point in our lives that we're trying to fit in. I have a chapter called I Was Short, What Were You? Which was like sort of the idea of like the defining factor of your identity at a crucial age in your life. And it just took me a while to realize that of course everyone has experienced the idea of attempting to fit in, attempting to make a human connection, to feel loved. And so I think that the podcast and the book has sort of helped me recognize that idea, and it's given me a lot of comfort in a way. And I also feel incredibly exposed, as you can tell, as I'm like tugging at my dress.
You're
Who's gonna rescue me? How do I get out of here?
You're a little like a child in like a recital right now.
I know. Oh, my mom's gonna be like, I loved the interview, but I can't believe you were tugging at your dress all day. Anyway.
Did you ever feel like you say that you hide behind characters and voices, but I think so often because you did comedy, people associated the characters that you played with like that was you. Did you ever feel that way, that people thought that you were very much like the characters that you played? Or?
I think that was the big revelation for me doing comedy, was the idea that I had to embrace, or at least accept, that an audience would think that I was my character, which was essentially an idiot. And I had to be like sort of okay with. I remember like I made the mistake early on of reading some reviews of Scary Movie, and somebody wrote like something like, "I wonder if Faris is as stupid as she plays," or something along those lines, and that really stuck with me, because that's what happens when
you were the type of comedic actress, and I remember this very specifically, that like those who appreciated what you were doing and liked what you were doing, like loved you and were like, she's amazing, she's totally original and incredible. And then there were snobs who would be like, what, like, who, blah. And if I was in your position, I would like be horrified of reviews, because some reviews got you beautifully. I remember this.
Oh,
like,
that's
with the House
nice.
Bunny.
Tell me more about that.
I remember when the House Bunny came out, there were reviews that were like, Anna Faris is clearly a treasure that we should all cherish, and she's doing really amazing original things. And then there would be reviews that would be like, is she going to keep doing this?
But then those things, they run around in your head, like a hamster wheel. But I do think that that's the challenge of comedy, is the idea of like, how do I tackle the idea of when I'm escaping into a character, of not caring about what the audience thinks about who I am as an actual person. And so when I've like played insane, some of my favorite roles are some of the crazier roles that I've done, like Samantha James in Just Friends. I had a cameo in Keanu. And getting to tap into sort of the evilness that I have somewhere in me, but and hoping that an audience won't necessarily judge me for that idea, but also feeling like, fuck it, maybe they will, and who cares? And that's part of like doing the job of acting, I guess.
Well, I find the greatest challenge for comedic actors and comedians in movies is that usually the first people who see comedy movies are not going to be the people who appreciate comedy movies as much as the rest of the audience. Like,
why do you say that?
Well, like the greatest comedy movie made in the last 2 decades is Step Brothers. Like, objectively speaking, I think it might be the greatest comedy movie made in the last 2 decades. When it came out, critics hated it. Everybody hated it. And then audiences were like, no, this movie's really funny. And a lot of critics went back 2 years later and wrote new reviews of it. And were like, you were right. It's a really, really funny movie.
What do you think that early judgment is about?
I think you're talking about people who are seeing 4 movies a day, and they're not, like, comedy has to do certain things that are sort of like economically they have to do things like big comedies, and critics respond in very they're averse to the sort of the mechanics that a comedy has to go through.
Can you think of another one that is that maybe has been poorly reviewed, or maybe anybody in your audience that's been like, that's a movie that you guys have seen that's been poorly reviewed but you found charming? Or I love you. I love that movie so much. Anytime, like, that's when somebody, like,
thank you.
Maybe like once every 6 months, somebody will come up to me and say, I really liked Smiley Face, and my heart will just melt, because I just loved playing that role so much. Anyway, it was a stoner comedy that I did. It was an indie movie.
Made by Greg Araki, right?
By Greg Araki,
who I love
yeah.
so much. And that was another movie that was like so specifically his and a comedy. And it was, you know, I think the people who got it when it came out really got it and loved it.
Yeah. I think, I guess that the comedy does have that lasting effect on you, and especially like the idea of familiarity, the kind of movie that you want to see when you have the flu, or like over and over again. You know, like I don't know. Can I ask your audience what some of their favorite comedies are? Like what would be like your sick day movies?
The one with the ring, when the ring girl comes out of the TV. That's one of the scary movies.
Yeah. Scary Movie 3. You love well. That's Regina Hall. She is unbelievable. She's like, Cindy! Another little girl trying to...
Do you feel like starting the podcast was a way for you to sort of present who you are as yourself more and more? And
yeah. Yes. And thanks for asking. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, no, that's okay. We can also just talk to the audience if you want to.
Well...
Anyone want to come up stage and be interviewed by Anna? I'll
Please. I'm alone up here. I'm not sure if you're a friend or foe.
I'm friend.
Okay.
We'll
But
see that.
but no, I've been working on Mom. This is our 5th season now, and I started to really miss. I love working on the show, and I love playing my character, and there's so many things that I love about having a regular job, as long as I have it. But I did start to feel like, how do I want a creative expression a little bit, and I also I found myself really missing stranger interaction that didn't necessarily revolve around acting a bit. So now I have this podcast, and we call strangers, and we get to talk to them about their lives, and I also pretend like I know what I'm talking about, so that's kind of fun.
And that's often where unqualified comes from, is you're giving this unqualified advice to strangers.
It's so unqualified, yeah.
What has been the
horrible.
hardest piece of, the hardest story that you felt like you've had to give advice on?
That's a really good question. Recently, we had a woman call on the Jim Jeffries episode, and she told us that her husband is transgender and has now like decided to make like a full-on physical transformation, and how should she deal with it, and I was looking at Sim, my producing partner, and thinking, I wish I knew what to say. But sometimes simply the act, like just simply the opportunity to tell one's painful story to people that will listen, or that. And we get so much wonderful feedback. Like it's incredibly helpful, I think, for a lot of our listeners if they have anything if they're going through a similar journey.
I think I listened to that episode, and I think that you did, and Jim and Sim did the absolute right thing, which was you didn't say anything. You listened and you asked questions to this woman, and you led her down a path towards like how she could help herself by like allowing her to explore all these different feelings that she has about what's going on. It wasn't like she told the story and the three of you were like, all right, this is what you want to do, go get a psychiatrist. You were like, well, what about this? And
Study abroad.
Singapore, have you been there? They have a wonderful English teaching program.
That probably actually would have been pretty good advice. I should have.
But she clearly felt at least a little more confident and better about the situation near the end. Just simply, from what I could tell, just simply by having people ask her questions and exploring all the different facets of what's going on in her situation.
I hope so. But, it's so incredible that we get a lot of feedback from people who can relate to our callers, and to feel like, oh, okay, so at the very least, I may be giving really shitty advice, but at the very least, there are other people who get to hear other people's stories and feel like they're not alone. And yeah, so it feels like, like I'm doing really great work.
You are. You're doing amazing
Thanks.
stuff. You're doing so good. So proud of you.
Thank you. Yeah, it's like my nonprofit.
Your podcast. How difficult was writing I want to talk about Mom in a minute because it is the 100th episode that you guys are about to shoot, right? Or have you already shot it?
No, we haven't shot it yet, but in a couple weeks.
In a couple weeks, you're going to be shooting
month,
it.
Yeah.
But before we get to that, I want to talk about the mechanics of writing the book. How difficult was it for you? Did you enjoy writing
Really
the book?
fucking hard. It was like, what the fuck did I, like, holy shit. Like, how arrogant, I'm so, I'm grateful that it's called Unqualified. It's like, who the fuck am I to?
Just wrote and like, blah, 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 told you I'm unqualified.
Yeah,
That's the book.
completely, yeah. No, it was one of those things, it was like, huh, I think this is a good idea. I was an English major. What? No, it was incredibly difficult. And now that this is my first day of like true press, thank you. Which is probably like, wow, what am I doing? But like I was saying earlier, like there was always an escape with. Like, yes, I had like a somewhat recognizable face, or sometimes like people would, whatever the idea of fame is, but there was always an escape with the character. And this feels like, oh yeah, these are my embarrassing stories. And my mom told me, my parents flew down to Los Angeles to take care of my son, Jack, over, like during this week of press, and my mom said the other morning, she said, Ani, I'm going to give you a gift. I am not going to read your book. And I was like, oh, Mom, thank God. Thank you. Because it feels like, I mean, I talk about like getting finger banged. I talk about the guys I've slept with. I've talked about like all kinds of incredibly embarrassing stuff that's hard for me to repeat right now. And there's that thing that's like flying towards me. Oh God. So I'm
Nothing like throwing the camera into the most invasive position possible when the actress is talking about getting finger banged. Nothing like this. Guys, she's talking about getting finger banged. Drop it in. Drop it right in there.
No, so I'm really proud, but it also feels vulnerable, and the goal, I guess, is that I just hope that people will read it and feel like a connection, like, oh, I was that person too, or just simply that, oh, we're not alone. You know, we've had a lot of, the same troubles. I mean, yeah.
Same insecurities a lot.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Mom. We have a clip to show from Mom, so let's take a look at that clip and then talk about the last 5 years that you've been doing on the show.
Excuse me, young lady, where do you think you're headed on a school night? Ha ha. Oh, come on. I was hammered the whole time you were dating in high school. Let me have this moment.
Okay, Mommy. I'll play along.
Come, sit. Now, I know you really like this boy, but remember, you don't have to do things just because he wants to.
But what if I want him to like me?
He should like you for who you are.
But what if I want him to really like me?
Then you gotta bang his brains out.
We always go one step too far,
Yeah.
don't we?
We sure do, kitten. Have fun. Bye.
Let's hear it for that. Let's hear it, guys. I love Allison Janney.
She's unbelievable.
She's so cool. What was it like when you first got told that you were going to be doing a show with her? How did it all happen? Did you know her beforehand at all?
I didn't know her before. We had a couple of mutual friends, and oddly, we were told by these mutual friends that we both would love each other. I do. I drive to work happy every day because I get to see her and annoy her. And
you annoy her?
Oh, I know I do. I must. I'm always like, Allison, hey, are you napping? Hi. Wait, hey, it's me. Hi. And I love her so much. It's an incredible. I feel unbelievably fortunate that I get to work with my best friend.
And how did you talk her into doing the podcast?
Oh, I just bribe her. I'm like, can I get you? Like one day I brought her a Chanel bag. Thank you. Yeah, it's a good gift. I was really proud of myself. I was
She's
like,
like, fine, I'll do the podcast.
Yes. Yeah. She's. I think it's amazing to work with somebody that's really supportive of me, and hopefully I can, be the same in return with her. Yeah, she's incredible.
I mean, I love the show. It's one of the sitcoms on that takes risks. It talks about addiction. It talks about a lot of issues for these two women. What is it like to have such a mainstream outlet to talk about these issues? I know you're not necessarily a writer on the show, but you must be sort of proud of the work that you get to put out into the world.
Our writers are unbelievable, and I am really proud that we have a comedy that we shoot in front of a live audience, which is really exciting, and that we are tackling, like issues like addiction, being a single mom, poverty, sort of general life struggle. In this comedic forum a bit, and I think that's what's given us such a loyal viewership, and it's remarkable how we can incorporate all these serious themes with and then be able to laugh through the pain, I guess.
What's it like coming up on 100 episodes?
My brain feels so full. Seriously, it feels like, just between us, right?
Shut the cameras off. It's just between us.
It feels like I'm taking a really fun version of the SATs every week.
Why is that?
I have to memorize like 100 lines, and they change all the time. So every Friday, we shoot on Friday, I'm about to walk out in front of the live audience, and I'm just like, don't fuck this up, Faris. Don't you fuck this up. And I get terrified. There's the exhilaration of, but I have to remind myself, okay, like I've done this 89 times before. I can do this. And, but,
Part of the fun, though, having that fear that you get to constantly conquer.
Do you know when it's fun?
When it's over?
On the drive home, yeah.
Well, that's what I mean. You conquered the fear. You get to drive home and be like, oh, I did it.
Yeah. And thankfully the audience seems to love it when we mess up. So,
that's comforting for you when you mess up, huh?
Oh, yeah. They'll be like, oh, and I'll just be like, we're so charmed. Fucked up. So
meanwhile, the directors and the producers are
everyone's like, oh, yeah. Everyone else is like, don't want you. But it's an amazing job, and it feels rare to be able to perform in front of a live audience, and because I grew up doing theater, that really taps into sort of that. Truly the element of like performing in front of people who don't completely resent you. Like
like a film crew?
Yes.
Yeah. We're just consistent. We're just like mostly just
like,
thinking
when
about
are
lunch.
we going home? Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
You missed your mark.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember the first time when I was doing Scary Movie, and I was so terrified because I had no idea what the fuck I was doing. And I finished this scene, and I asked my hair stylist, who I was like getting kind of close to, I was like, what did you think about that take? And she said, oh my gosh, it was so great. You didn't touch your hair once.
Right. Everyone's got their own job to do.
Is that yeah.
And if you ask like the DP, he'd be like, it's great, you didn't miss your mark.
Right, exactly.
No, you never went out of focus.
Yeah. You found your key light for once.
And if you ask the director, he goes, oh, come on, just leave me alone, will you? I'm busy here.
So true. It's so true.
And the actor is just left out in the dark.
Yes.
Sad and needy.
Yes. And you just crawl home and you're like, just going to hide in the bathroom for a long time.
Before I let you go, one of the things that you talked about on the Jim Jeffries episode as well that I loved that you talked about was farting. And I don't know how, I know this is annoying, or not annoying, but weird to just bring up out of nowhere, but you actually said the average amount of times a person farts in a day on that show.
I don't think I did.
No, you're one of your producers, not
Sim. No?
But the woman who Googles
Oh,
things.
Cassie. What did she say? I forgot.
14 times a day, the average person. And I was so blown away by that.
This?
That's what, I mean, yeah, I'm curious about that too. But it's a conversation that I have regularly.
You do?
Yeah, because I fart and my partner doesn't. And she's like, why do you have to do that all the time? And I'm like, what are you talking about? Everybody farts. And she's like, have you ever seen me fart? I'm like, you're right. How do you live? Are you a happy person? Like, are you repressed?
Well, what would you feel? Like, let's say she did 14 times a day and was like kind of proud, or at least like, maybe not proud, but like, I don't know, not ashamed in any way. Would you be turned off by that at all?
Well, I don't fart 14 times a day in front of her anymore. Maybe once or twice, and that is immediately followed by like a, sorry about that.
Oh, okay.
She's not a fan.
So you're in love.
Absolutely, but she's not a fan. Sometimes she chuckles, but for the most part, it's like, come on, dude, which I get. But if she farted, I think it would be a victory for me. I would jump up and throw my arms in the air and be like, yeah!
Let me ask you this. If you do something that's silent.
I would try.
Okay. Do you confess?
God, no.
So there's just like, you're in the car, you're driving upstate.
You know us so well. No, it's like this.
Okay, and then, but like, do you suddenly roll down the windows?
I'll do that.
And then without any explanation, or?
I'll be like roll down the window.
And will she look at you and be like?
I'll try to start a new conversation, some sort of distracting conversation. The song is great, Like,
every
now and then.
I love St. Bernards. Do you?
Yeah. I'll get like you farted, didn't you? Yeah, I'm really I'm sorry. Sorry about that.
I like that place. Okay, what time, like, how long into a relationship do you get there? Is it like 5 months? Is it like 6 months?
Well,
like, when do you get to the place where you confess, like, I made that?
I started from a place of like, I'm just going to fart all the time.
Oh, okay.
And that
you just like, love me for who I am?
Yeah. And that soon turned into please don't. I don't like it.
Did it take a certain age for you to get to that place?
No, it's always like that. I think if you talk to previous girlfriends before this one, they'd be like, yeah, I don't know what it's like. It was like he never wanted to impress me.
I'm going to do my research. All right.
I'll send you some emails.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. All right. I'm going to,
But I didn't get this from your podcast. What is your take on farting in relationships? And I did not clear this question. I apologize, guys.
Well, I've never farted before. I've never I don't quite know. I don't even have a bum. I have bum hole.
My Katrina would say the same thing.
Peach-like cheeks.
Totally like androgynous all around, like Barbie doll crotch, just like nothing there.
Right? The rest of the ladies know what I'm talking about. No.
How about your take on men who fart in relationships? That's not, I mean, more specific than that. Like, there can just be a take on men who fart.
I don't think, here's the thing. I don't mind it at all when other people do it, but because my mom is a really modest person, sorry, Mom. Like, I grew up with that not being sort of female acceptable. I don't know. I mean, is it like the craziest turnoff? Will you ask the men in the audience? Or like, I don't know. Is it a total turnoff? What do you guys think?
How does it bother you if a woman farts?
It doesn't bother you.
My wife thinks it's hilarious. She thinks she can do it as much as she wants, but if I do it, I'm disgusted.
Ah, like your wife. All right. Yeah, it's fun.
Farts. I agree.
good.
Farts are fun. Farts are very fun. Not agree with that?
I just think, you're really rolling the dice. Like, especially with you dudes. I know some men out there who play it sort of fast and loose.
Oh God.
Yep. Sometimes.
Saying what I think you're saying?
Yep.
The dreaded
You
shark.
just don't want to force it.
Anna, I love your work. I love the show. I
Thank
love the
you.
book,
Thanks.
the podcast as well, which is also a show. So both shows.
Thank you.
I look forward to everything that you do. Thank you so much for being here. The
Thank
book
you
is
for
on shelves
having
now,
me.
right?
Thank you. Yes, yeah.
Well, hold up. I'm going to make you do that again. The book is on shelves now. The podcast is available on Apple, iTunes, and Mom is on CBS. Which nights?
Thursday nights.
Thursday nights.
Yes,
Anna Faris, everybody.
thank
Now
you.
clap.
Thank
Let's
you,
hear it.
guys. Thank you.